The sound of a mother's desperate sob can pierce through the busiest of crowds, but in that sterile pharmacy on Fifth Avenue, it seemed to echo off every gleaming surface like a prayer gone unanswered. Maria clutched her 18-month-old daughter Sophia against her chest, feeling the child's fevered body burning through her thin cotton dress. The numbers on the digital thermometer had climbed to 103.2 degrees, and each labored breath from her baby felt like another second slipping away from a life that had already given them so little. "I'm sorry, Mom, but your card has been declined again," the pharmacist said, his voice carrying the practiced indifference that comes from delivering bad news 100 times a day. The bottle of children's Tylenol sat mockingly on the counter between them, such a small thing, costing only $12.37, yet it might as well have been $1 million. Maria's hands trembled as she fumbled through her worn purse one more time, knowing she wouldn't find anything different than the 3 crumpled dollar bills and handful of pennies she'd already counted twice. Sophia whimpered against her shoulder, her tiny fist clutching weakly at her mother's faded uniform from the diner where she worked double shifts just to keep their studio apartment. "Please," Maria whispered, her voice breaking. "She's burning up. I can pay you tomorrow when I get my tips, I promise. I've been coming here for months. You know I'm good for it." The pharmacist's expression softened slightly, but he shook his head. "Company policy. I wish I could help, but..." Behind Maria, the line of customers grew restless. Someone muttered about holding up the line. Another person sighed loudly and checked their expensive watch. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead like angry insects, and the air conditioning hummed its cold indifference while Sophia's fever climbed higher. That's when Maria broke down completely. The weight of 3 jobs that barely paid rent, the sleepless nights studying for her nursing degree, the constant fear that she wasn't enough for the daughter who depended on her, it all crashed over her at once. Her shoulders shook with silent sobs as she pressed her face against Sophia's burning forehead, feeling like the worst mother in the world. "I'm sorry, baby girl," she whispered. "Mama's so sorry." The man standing directly behind her in line had been watching this scene unfold with growing discomfort. To most people in the pharmacy, he looked like any other customer: gray jeans, a simple gray sweater, worn sneakers. The only thing that might have given him away was the slight callus on his ring finger where he'd removed a watch worth more than most people's annual salary before coming in. Alexander Chen had built his technology empire from nothing, sleeping in his car during the early days of his startup, eating ramen for months while coding through the night. But success had a way of insulating you from the raw desperation he was witnessing now. When he'd walked into this pharmacy to pick up his own prescription, he'd been thinking about board meetings and quarterly projections. Now he was remembering what it felt like to choose between medicine and food, between pride and survival. Without hesitation, he stepped forward and placed a gentle hand on Maria's shoulder. "Excuse me," he said quietly, his voice cutting through her despair. "I'd like to help." Maria looked up through her tears, expecting to see another impatient customer telling her to move along. Instead, she found herself looking into kind eyes that held no judgment, only genuine concern. "I couldn't help but overhear," Alexander continued, pulling out his wallet. "Let me get this for you." "No, I can't," Maria protested, stepping back instinctively. "I don't take charity." "It's not charity," Alexander said simply, handing his credit card to the pharmacist. "It's what any parent would do for another parent. Your daughter needs medicine, and I happen to be able to help. That's all this is." The pharmacist ran the card quickly, relief evident on his face. But Alexander wasn't finished. As he watched Maria's shaking hands try to open the child-proof cap, he realized that medicine alone wasn't going to be enough. "When was the last time she saw a doctor?" he asked gently. Maria's face flushed with shame. We don't have insurance right now. I'm between jobs, and the new one doesn't start coverage for 90 days. Sophia's breathing was becoming more labored, her tiny chest rising and falling rapidly. Alexander made a decision that would have shocked his board of directors but felt completely natural to him in that moment. "Come with me now," he said, his voice urgent but calm. "I know a pediatrician who can see her immediately." "I told you, I can't pay her." "You won't need to. Dr. Rodriguez owes me a favor, and more importantly, she became a doctor to help children, not to worry about insurance cards." Maria hesitated, torn between desperation and pride. Every maternal instinct screamed that Sophia needed more help than a bottle of fever reducer could provide, but accepting help from a stranger went against everything she'd learned about surviving on her own. "I understand your hesitation," Alexander said, sensing her internal struggle. "You don't know me, and you've probably learned to be careful about accepting help. But right now, your daughter needs medical attention, and I'm offering a solution with no strings attached." Sometimes the bravest thing we can do is let others help us when we need it most. Something in his tone, perhaps the way he called it brave rather than weak, broke through Maria's defenses. She nodded, clutching Sophia tighter. The ride to Dr. Rodriguez's private practice took 15 minutes in Alexander's deliberately modest Honda Civic. He'd learned years ago that wealth was most powerful when it didn't announce itself. During the drive, Maria found herself talking about her nursing studies, about Sophia's father who'd left when he learned about the pregnancy, about the dreams she held on to even when everything seemed impossible. Dr. Rodriguez, a warm woman in her 50s with graying hair and gentle hands, examined Sophia thoroughly while Alexander waited in the outer office, making quiet phone calls. The diagnosis was a severe ear infection that could have become dangerous if left untreated. Sophia needed antibiotics, rest, and follow-up care. The medicine should bring her fever down within a few hours, Dr. Rodriguez assured Maria as she handed over the prescription. "But I want to see her again in 3 days to make sure the infection is clearing." "How much do I owe you?" Maria asked, her voice small. "Nothing," Dr. Rodriguez smiled. "Alexander has made a substantial donation to our clinic's fund for uninsured families. Consider it covered." When they returned to the waiting room, Alexander was just finishing a phone call. He looked up with a smile that seemed to light up his entire face. "Good news?" he asked. "She'll be fine," Maria said, fresh tears falling, but these were tears of relief and gratitude. "I don't know how to thank you." "Actually," Alexander said, his expression growing thoughtful, "I might have a proposition that could help us both." "I heard you mention you're studying nursing?" Maria nodded cautiously. "My company has been looking to expand our employee health services. We need someone to run our on-site clinic, coordinate with doctors, manage health programs for our staff. It would mean full benefits from day one, flexible hours to accommodate your studies, and a salary that would let you focus on being Sophia's mom instead of working 3 jobs. Maria stared at him in disbelief. "You're offering me a job? You don't even know me." "I know you're a mother who will do anything for her child. I know you're working multiple jobs while going to school to build a better future. I know you have integrity because you didn't want to accept help even when your daughter needed it. Sometimes the best qualifications aren't on a resume." 6 months later, Maria would graduate from nursing school with honors while working at Chen Technologies, where she'd discover that her mysterious benefactor was actually the CEO whose company had revolutionized healthcare technology worldwide. But that evening, as she sat in her apartment watching Sophia's fever finally break, she didn't need to know about Alexander's billions or his corporate empire. All she knew was that when she'd hit her lowest point, when pride and desperation had collided in that sterile pharmacy, A stranger had seen her not as a problem to be solved or a charity case to be pitied, but as a fellow human being deserving of kindness. And in that moment of pure human connection, both their lives had changed forever. Sometimes the most profound acts of generosity aren't about the money spent, but about the dignity preserved and the hope restored. In a world that often seemed determined to divide people by what they had or didn't have, Alexander had chosen to see what they shared, the universal experience of caring for those we love, and the courage it takes to accept help when we need it most. The medicine had cost $12.37. The transformation it set in motion was priceless.